You're very welcome to Tuesday afternoon's Late Lunch on LMFM radio. Let's start by going back to last evening. I don't know whether you were watching the excellent Primetime Investigates on RTE1 as the team looked into the cattle export trade to the continent, in particular male calves for the continental veal market. It was shocking, I have to say, at times, and a real eye-opener. But I'd say not for my first guest today. She's been a good friend of ours on the show over the years. She's the woman who is behind Eden Farmed Animal Sanctuary, and she's behind many campaigns for Go Vegan World. Sandra Higgins, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gerry.
Not at all, Sandra. Do you want to comment on what you saw last night? As I said, this probably wasn't a surprise to you, was it?
No. Unfortunately, it's all too familiar to us in the animal rights movement, because this is endemic when we use other animals. It's not confined to live export. It's everywhere. But even though we're well used to it, I mean, it's traumatising to watch at the same time. So, we hope that viewers will realise that this is what they pay for when they're not vegan.
I was with somebody watching it who actually said to me that she'd be sick if there was a meat put in front of her, and just felt sick to the pit of her stomach looking at it and never realised, what this is about. And as you said, this is one aspect of it. Do you think an expose like that will make any difference, Sandra? Well,
look, you hope that people will investigate further, that they won't just take what they saw on RTE, that they'll, really study it, and that they'll go to a website like ours, the Go Vegan World website, and realise, it's not just live export. Dairy's dirty secrets are that they extend way beyond live export. The whole industry, the whole of the human use of other animals is appalling. And that's why people go vegan, because we're traumatised when we realise that's what we do to other animals. So it's not just that calves are an unwanted byproduct and they're sent to other countries, and it's not what happens in other countries. The whole industry, it begins with extracting semen from bulls in the most appalling manner, to artificially inseminate the calves. Most cows are artificially inseminated. Most people don't realise, they think that hens just lay eggs and animals just produce animal flesh and the cows just produce milk, but they don't. They're like humans. They only produce milk when they're impregnated and give birth, and they produce that milk for that baby to drink. But because there's a human market for their milk, we separate the babies from them. And the cows in the dairy industry, and indeed the goats and the sheep as well, are also used in the dairy industry. Their lives consist of pregnancy followed by pregnancy. So they're impregnated every year. They're milked for at least 6 months of that pregnancy, and then as soon as they give birth, their babies are taken from them so that we can have their milk. And they're all slaughtered. So we had several issues with the programme last night. One of the most appalling aspects of it is the normalisation of our human control of the bodies and lives of other animals. The talk about selective breeding, sex, semen, the normalisation, the sentences, this is necessary. It's not completely unnecessary for us to use other animals. And also, there wasn't a single animal rights activist on the show, and there wasn't a single animal rights perspective on the show. It actually was a very good illustration of the difference between animal welfare and animal rights. If I can give a human analogy to explain it to your listeners, if you heard in the morning that there was a group of prisoners in Mountjoy on death row, and they were being made to travel long distances in extreme temperatures, overcrowded, very, very young or vulnerable prisoners, maybe with health difficulties or mental health difficulties or whatever, no water, no food, no rest. And they were being sent to be kept in confinement for several months, fed a diet of just milk, in the dark, separated from their comrades, and they're on death row, they're going to be killed. There's no way that we would fight for better treatment of those prisoners. We would be up in arms to end the death penalty, to get them out of prison, to fight for their rights. So what the programme illustrated last night was the people who tried to give the prisoners nicer food or more space, instead of saying, get them out of there. What are they doing in there? They're completely innocent and defenceless, and this is entirely unnecessary. So it was so sad to see people purporting to be advocates for animals and actually suggesting the Irish veal industry as a solution.
I suppose, Sandra, going back to a generalisation, people say that mankind are hunter-gatherers and have been from time immemorial. You know, that we've always, preyed upon animals for food.
Well, first of all, we haven't. We've done that very recently in our history. But, Gerry, there are lots of things that we've done traditionally. You know, the male domination of women, the abuse, physical abuse of children, our discrimination against anybody who we think is different to us. The fact that we've done something for a long time is no justification for a human rights violation. So why would it be a justification for an animal rights violation?
You have mentioned other animals as well, and of course intensity with poultry and all that type of thing, is you're well familiar with that too, and there's an awful lot of questions there. Can we survive? Let me put it this way to you. Can mankind survive not, using animals as a food source?
Yeah, absolutely. The scientific evidence is fully behind this, and I'm very glad to see that the Irish Nutrition and Dietetics Institute have at long last come out and supported the rest of the science. You can get all the nutrients you need from a plant diet. Not only that, Gerry, farmers' income would increase vastly, especially the subsistence farmers, in the flesh industries. As well as that, you have to take, it's not an animal rights issue, but you have to take into consideration the inefficiency of animal use. Like 85 or 83% or something of the world's farmland produces about 18% of our calories from animal agriculture. It takes 100 times the resources to produce a calorie of animal food or a gram of animal protein in comparison to the plant equivalents. And also the greenhouse gas emissions and the environmental damage are really, it's gone completely out of control. The Irish emissions are at the moment 38% from agriculture, and most of that is from animal agriculture. That's predicted to increase to over 40% by the year 2030. Not that far away at all. When the government talks about how we're going to reduce our emissions, they target the sectors that are contributing considerably less than animal agriculture. And this is not just Ireland. Our statistics reflect the global statistics. So because of that, we're facing extreme temperatures. The hottest day on record was recorded recently. Human illness. It's going to be appalling. We're going to leave an appalling world behind for our children. But not only that, not only is animal agriculture a significant contributor to this, because of the effects of this on the destruction of the environment and climate change, we're not going to be able to grow food and produce food for ourselves. So we really have no option but to change. And to bring it back to the programme last night, the conversation came up about how do we fix this. Well, I'll tell you, sex, semen and better standards of welfare will not fix this. The Cormac on our sanctuary, it was a bull calf rescued from a dairy farm that used sex semen. And honest to God, when you see the innocence of Cormac, when I remember when we rescued him and how vulnerable he was as a tiny calf, you could just cry when you think of what we do to them. But so that's not a solution. Increased welfare standards, it's very important that people understand what animal welfare is. It's a term used by the industry to protect their profits. So it keeps profits at the maximum rate while giving the minimum standards to animals. A lot of what we saw on the programme last night were breaches of animal welfare. But the most appalling thing of all is that all of this is legal. I mean, if most people watched it, they would be the same as the person that was with you, Gerry, sickened and traumatised if they watch what goes on an ordinary farm and in an ordinary slaughterhouse.
And I think that is the big thing to come out of it last night. Look, time is going to beat us here. Just before we go, are you encouraged at all by seeing many of the food producers, end food producers, producing more vegan versions of, meat, etc.? Is that any consolation to you? And more people buying into it?
It definitely makes it a lot easier to go vegan. There are lovely products on the market now, but you don't need them. If you eat a whole food plant-based diet, it's cheap, it's good for you, you get all the nutrients you need. You don't have to buy the substitute. So, for your viewers out there, you can veganise all the foods you're eating at the moment without buying expensive products. But look, they're tasty. It makes it really there's no excuse for people. It's really very easy, and particularly they're coming down in price as well. But you can definitely get all the nutrients that you need. You do not have to pay for what you saw on the television last night, and we're there to support you and be a friend to you if you would like to make the transition. And I include farmers in that.
Sandra, look, we'll leave it there for today. We'll be back to this, I promise you. Good to talk to you again. Nice to hear your point of view. Go Vegan World. Check Sandra out and all the information there. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. That's Sandra Higgins there. Very nice lady. Really one of the nicest people I've ever met, and so compassionate and caring. But there are many questions and many issues that need to be addressed, that's for sure.